Hey there! In this episode of Red Reviews, we're going to talk about one of my favorite game designers, Tim Fowers, and a game he made called The Fugitive. So The Fugitive is a two-player game. The concept of the game is that you are either playing the role of the marshal, who's trying to hunt down the fugitive, or the fugitive who is trying to escape. This game takes 20 minutes and it can take as long as 60 minutes depending upon how prone you are to analysis paralysis. But it's a fairly simple game and it has beautiful artwork. So I want to talk about how much I love this game while I show you the game. So let's drop down to the table and I'll show you what the game looks like. All right, so I have the components for the Fugitive laid out on the table here. There is one thing that I haven't put out on the table, and it's still in the box, which this box is fantastic. It looks like a little briefcase, right? And if you open up the box inside of here, I still have the event cards. So the event cards can be placed in these decks on the table to have random events pop up, which change the gameplay a little bit. You give a bonus to either the marshal who was on one side or the fugitive who was on the other side. So we're going to set that out of the way. Oops, let's spin it around. The other components that I have out here are the pieces for the marshal, which is one of the players. The marshal's trying to catch the fugitive. The marshal has a number pad here that goes from 1 to 42 because they're trying to discover all the hideouts that the fugitive has used. The fugitive, which is making use of the cards that are numbered from 1 to 42. I'm playing with these cards over here, so this is going to represent my hand. Normally I would hold these back so that the marshal couldn't see them, but in order to do this video, we'll put them out so everybody can see them. The fugitive starts with cards 42, which is the end spot that they're trying to get to, the last hideout. Then they have 1, 2, and 3. And then the 0 hideout starts in play. In addition to that, the fugitive gets to draw some more cards. So these cards, the rest of the cards that go from 4 to 41, between the cards that are out here, are broken up into 3 piles. So you have 4 to 14, 15 to 28, and 29 to 41. So as the starting fugitive, you also get to draw some extra cards. From the first pile, you get 3 cards. So I get an 8, I get a 5, and I get a 13. So I get 3 of these cards, and then I get 2 of these cards. So 21 and 24. So one of the great details of this game is that you take all these cards and put them in order from 1 to 42. It's kind of like a comic book as you step through how this whole pursuit goes and all the hideouts that they go through. So, all right. I have some reference cards out here on the side that kind of talk about, that are very handy. They talk about what each player can do on their turn. All right, so the fugitive on their turn, their first turn, they're going to place 2 hideouts. What placing a hideout is I'm going to place the next place that I've run away to as the fugitive. So they have to go in ascending order. So if I were to play a 4 here, let's say, well, I can't. So let's talk about that rule. So one of the rules is you can take up to 3 steps for your next hideout. So my next hideout could be 1, 2, or 3. The hideout after that has to be in ascending order, so I can't go back to 2. I would have to go, if I were to play 3, I would have to play at least a 4 or greater out there, right? So your normal steps are 1 to 3. So I could play, by default, I could play 1 to 3 after this 0 card. I do have the ability to sprint, and that is what these steps represent up in the corner. So when I go to play my hideout, I could use one of these cards to take some additional steps to allow me to go further. Now that allows me, I don't have to do that, right? So I could play, let's just say I play this 8 here, which has 2 extra steps on it. I could play that and the 1 card and only go to 1. And in this case, I'm trying to deceive the marshal into thinking I'm making a very big play and possibly jumping all the way to 5, because that would be a lot of cards to waste early on here and trying to deceive the marshal. All right. So that could be either a 1 or it could be all the way up to a 5 because I potentially am taking 2 extra steps. I could play multiple of those. So then that could be all the way from a 1 to a 9. And that's a huge leap, right? But I have wasted a lot of cards in order to do that, and I don't get an endless supply of cards. All right, so let's try to go not too complicated at the beginning here. Let's say we jump 2 at the beginning. So we'll go to hideout number 2. And then let's go to hideout number 5. Right, it's a pretty simple play. So that's my, if you can see over there, my first turn is, as the fugitive, is to place 2 hideouts. All right, so that's what I've done. Now it's the marshal's turn. Now what the marshal gets to do as part of their turn is they're going to be drawing from some of these decks, and that's going to be their investigative powers, figuring out where the fugitive has not been. So the marshal gets to draw on their first turn. They draw 2 cards. All right, so the marshal's going to draw from here, and the marshal gets a 9. All right, so they can mark on their tableau. They know that I did not go to 9. All right, maybe they want to prepare a little bit for the mid game, so they're going to grab this card, and it's a 17. So they know that the fugitive didn't go to 17. All right, now the marshal gets to guess. And the marshal is going to guess a hideout number, and they have the choice of any hideout number they want to guess. Right? So what the marshal knows at this point in time is this could be a 1 and a 2. This could be a 3, and this could be a 6. So there's a whole variety of what these could be. So let's say that the marshal guesses, well, I think there's a 1 out there, because the marshal doesn't have to say which card is which. So maybe they think that the fugitive started low and didn't try to do a big jump. So the marshal says, I'm going to guess 1. As the fugitive, I say, no, that's not one of the items that are out there. Well, the marshal knows that this would at minimum have to be a 2. So this, if this isn't a 1, then I, as the fugitive, didn't play a 1, and they can mark it off of their card. All right, so now it comes back to the fugitive's turn. Fugitive turn, the fugitive gets to draw a card, so I could draw from any of the stacks that I want to. Let's say I draw from this early stack here. I drew an 11, right? Okay, so what the fugitive is looking at is I can play another card, so I'm at 5. I could jump up to 3 away from 5, or I could add some steps. So the 8 is within normal range. I could add a bunch of steps and maybe try to get to 11, but I would have to add a lot of steps. I could even add steps from here and here possibly. Let's say I did that. We're going to add 1 and 24 as steps. So that's 3 additional steps. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I jump all the way to 11 with this step. All right. So now I used a lot of cards doing that, but I took a massive jump, and there's a big hole in what the numbers are here. Hopefully that's helping confuse the marshal. All right, so we'll jump over to the marshal's turn. The marshal says, okay, I'm going to draw a card. Well, I'm very concerned about, this could be 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 13. Could almost be getting ready to get into the second stack. All right, so the marshal grabs a 4. They can mark 4 off of their thing. They know it's not a 1, so the marshal throws out, okay, let's say 2. Now the marshal doesn't have to guess them in order, so they're just going to guess 2. As the fugitive, I now have to reveal that, yes, 2 is one of the places that I found. So then the marshal might mark 2 off of theirs. All right, then we go back over to the fugitive's turn. So the fugitive at this point gets to draw a card. So I know that I'm at 11, and I'm probably going to jump into the teens here really quick, and I want to have some cards to be prepared for that. So as the fugitive, I draw from the middle stack this time around, prepping to jump into the middle. All right, so I was at 11. I can take 2 steps and go to 13, so I'm going to drop a 13 out there. All right, and the fugitive is done on their turn. Marshal's over on their turn, trying to figure out what's going on because the fugitive seems to be getting away at this point. So the marshal's going to grab a middle card and say, hey, 18. All right, so what I know is fugitive might jump into the teens pretty quick there, but they're not going to be a 17 or 18. So that's going to help. They're going to have to be right in that 14 to 15 range, maybe 16, and then jump over. Marshal's still not sure about where they're at. There's a big range of stuff that could be in there. So the marshal says, let's throw a number out there. We'll throw 11 out there. So the fugitive, knowing their cards, that one was a 5. That one's an 11. So it's revealed. And these come out too. So there were 2 steps. And 11 comes out. And Marshal's like, ooh, that was a big reveal. So that's a good thing to find. So there's the one that I knew couldn't be one of the hideouts. Guess 24 is out. 11 is out now. So that marks a lot off of the Marshal's list. All right, so then the game's just going to proceed like this. The fugitive will continue to place new hideouts, and Marshal will continue to try to guess which hideouts there are. The Marshal can guess multiple hideouts. So if the Marshal were to say, you have hideouts 5 and 14, the Marshal could guess both of those. But then the fugitive would have to have both 5 and 14. If the fugitive did not have 5 and 14, you would say, no, I don't have both of those. And then the Marshal would lose that turn. The other thing is the Marshal has a last go right at the end of the game. So if I were to play all my cards and get all the way to where I can drop 42 out there, the Marshal has one last chance to try to guess. They have to guess a card, get it right, guess a card, get it right, guess a card, get it right, and reveal all the way up to the end. And then the Marshal can get a last minute save to catch the fugitive. So I guess what I'll say is the game has a lot of tension with deciding which cards to play when you start to run out of cards on the fugitive side. And then on the Marshal side, it feels like they're getting closer and closer because the fugitive really has it easier at the beginning, and then it's tougher for the Marshal, but then it becomes tougher for the fugitive at the end and easier for the Marshal. So there's a good interplay there of tension between both parties trying to both get away, and you feel like, hey, I got away with something. And the Marshal's got this discovery, like when you hit something like this where you reveal 3 cards, and you're like, yes, I just figured that out. So there's a lot of good back and forth there, figuring out what's going on. So with that, that's kind of the basics of the game. Like I said, there's some event cards in there that allow you to change the game up a little bit, add some more variety. And with that, I'm going to hop back up and we'll talk about final thoughts. All right, so final thoughts on the fugitive. One of the things I really like about this game is that it's a portable game. It's very easy to take around. Another thing I like about this game is the concepts are very simple. You're going from 0 to 42 as the fugitive, and you're trying to figure that out as the Marshal, trying to capture the fugitive. The artwork in this game is fantastic. The replayability is pretty good when you throw the event cards in there. They mix things up pretty well. The tension aspect of the game is great. As I had mentioned earlier, the fugitive starts off feeling like they're kind of getting away with some stuff at the beginning. The Marshal feels a little bit snowed, but that as the game goes on, that seems to reverse itself, and the fugitive is just barely escaping while the Marshal seems to be making up ground and figuring a lot of things out. that tension piece of it, I think, is what sells it for me. It continues to produce that tension as I've played the game over and over again. Tim Fowers makes some fantastic games. I'm a big fan of Bruggle Brothers. There's another Kickstarter out there for a casino version that's similar to that. He just makes great games. I've got Now Boarding also, another great game. So this fits in there as another great game from Tim Fowers. It's not very expensive, it's easy to move around, and it's fun to play. So I would highly recommend The Fugitive. I would suggest you go pick that one up. This is Red. I'd like to thank you for watching. Please add your thoughts in the comments below. Also, a thumbs up for the content or subject of the video will help guide where this goes next. And finally, subscribe to stay up to date as new content rolls out.